Hello, I'm Adam, a software developer here at Ayogo. Today I'm going to talk with you about how Ayogo makes educational minigames. The process normally begins with an organization needing help to build a game around a scientific concept. They tell us their motivations for the project, who it will be for, and what the headline objectives are. They may want to raise the profile of an aspect of their business, or help educate a group of individuals. From here on out, we frame these parameters around our thinking to ensure that the project's goals will be met by the design. The first step along the design path is always to learn as much as we can about the topic up front. We have a lot of domain expertise within Ayogo, but the concepts we're asked to gamify often concern groundbreaking, specialized science, and so we may have to hit the books for a while until we have a working grasp of the field. We also learn as much as we can about the target audience, target platforms and their constraints, and the specific scientific details that the game should focus on. Once we have a good understanding of the subject, we start brainstorming on the mechanics of the concept, exploring possible metaphors and ways in which we might simulate the concept's processes. Next, we consider how a player might step in and interact with that simulation. This is one of the most challenging aspects to get right because the player brings an element of agency where there may not normally be any, and so we need to carefully identify a way in which the player can tamper with the simulation in a way that doesn't violate the educational element we are trying to communicate. While doing this, we also keep an eye out for overlaps between our working concept and existing game archetypes so that we might leverage a pre-existing understanding of how the game world might operate. Our final designs will rarely have much resemblance to existing games, but making implicit reference to an established arcade paradigm can really help a player to understand the game and its metaphor quickly. It's very important to be selective over which aspects of the concept the game will represent. Because it will always exist within a larger educational context, the game itself doesn't and shouldn't tell the entire story. By carefully choosing the game's focus and supplementing it with educational context, the game can act as a hook into the core material, illustrating a single aspect and encouraging broader learning without bogging the game down and overwhelming the player with excessive detail. When the time comes to start implementation, we work very iteratively, starting with tiny interactive prototypes and building from there. We playtest, rebuild, and refine these rough demos to ensure that they are fun to play even at this primitive stage. Visual and audio design take place in parallel with development so that each element can feed into the others. There are many shared constraints and opportunities to harmonize these elements, and so it pays not to create any one aspect in isolation. Over the course of implementation, we keep in regular touch with the client to ensure that we're staying aligned. We go through a few rounds of feedback and take input on the current direction of the visual design and gameplay, making adjustments as needed. And once the game approaches completion, we begin some careful QA testing and more extensive user testing. Together, these processes allow us to be sure that the game will run well and without errors on all our targeted devices, and that the game is approachable for first-time players. As launch day approaches, we finalize the set of analytics events to be tracked during gameplay. Time spent, levels completed, shares on social media, and related page views are all useful data points for assessing the success of the game. We also keep an eye on the game leaderboard to check in on how competitive players are getting with each other. Let us know if you're interested in Ayogo being a part of your next innovation project.